All right, day 3. Amazing job. If you're coming to this video, make sure that you finish this video and go back and listen to day 1 and day 2 to make sure that you get the best value from this video series. So day 3 is how to change your curse stories into blessing stories. So what is a curse story? A curse story is a story that limits you. Blessing story is a story that takes you forward. So why do you need to listen to this? Because this is everything. This is everything. If you're able to take your stories to the next level, if you're able to move from a curse story to blessing story, you are leveraging your power and you're moving your business to the next level, right? But if you are staying in your curse story and being stuck, then you might just do some stuff and move on this planet. But if you want to really claim your destiny, listen to this. So what are we talking about here? We don't have fixed stories, guys. We just have what I call as story plasticity. It's a term that we came up with. So plasticity means if you take a plastic, you could actually mold the plastic any way you want, like especially under heat. And I'll show you what that heat is in a second. So with heat, you could actually mold the plastic to fit to anything. You could have a plastic cup, you could have a plastic plate, you could have a plastic hat, or you could have a plastic something else. You could have plastic to come up with a video camera, right? We use plastic for so many things. So what happens is your stories have the same thing. It has plasticity. What does that mean? It means the story can be molded. Every time you remember your story, you are remembering your story, which means you are collecting your story. You're collecting it again in a different way. So what does that mean? I'm like, what does that mean? Like, so am I like, if I have a story or a trauma or something like that, then is it changing all the time? Of course it is changing all the time. But why am I not feeling it? I feel the trauma all the time. The reason is you are re-traumatizing with the same experience all the time. That's why you're not feeling a difference. And if you had like gone through major trauma, then for sure it's gonna feel like more intense, right? So if you look at therapies, like if you look at like psychotherapy or CBT or any other technology, any other techniques that you studied, if you look at it, they're actually, most of the really good therapies, they'll ask you to share the thing, because when you share it, you're rememorizing. So in a safe environment, in an emotionally safe environment, you're actually rememorizing. So it's kind of a very lousy way to heal, but it works. It's pretty good. It's okay. You could, if that's the best you got, use it. It's pretty good. So you should always go try therapy and try to find solutions for your challenges if there is an option to do that, wherever there is an opportunity. If you want to radically increase the speed of it, understand that your story plasticity is the thing that works in Freudian psychology, CBT, and everything that you do. CBT stands for cognitive behavioral therapy, which we will, like you could Google about it if you want. Okay, so all of it is working based on story plasticity. And you study this for extensively for 5 years, then you'll understand what I mean by story plasticity, because story plasticity is that is working. So what is it again? Story plasticity is the ability for the brain to edit your stories based on the context of what emotion and what physical location you are in and who you are with. So who, where, and what emotion. Who, where, and what emotion. Based on those three, your brain can edit, like, what is that story? What does this mean? Like, editing can happen. This is what, so your therapist is facilitating, or one's therapist is facilitating that safe environment, that person, and you are probably in an emotional calm state. So emotion is, and you are in a special location, sitting back on a couch, and that all feels good. And so you could edit what happened. So it's story plasticity in application. But I'm going to show you how to do this, how to get probably 10 years of therapy in less than an hour, if you deeply try to understand this. So here is the thing. There are two types of stories. One is blessing stories. The other one is curse stories. So blessing stories are stories that will help you move to the next level. Curse stories are stories that are limiting you from moving to the next level. So I'm going to throw out some terms here before I get into the scientific fact, because you really need to understand how it works briefly in order for me to do this for you. Okay, so I'm going to teach you the foundation foundational powerful principles and some little bit of advanced ideas here so that you clearly understand this. Okay, so I told you already that your brain can only store stories. It's a story brain. It's a story brain. And this story brain has this faculty called rememorization. Rememorization is a vocabulary, another vocabulary from us, which is memory is not static. Your memory is dynamic. What does that mean? Every time you remember, the memory changes. I told you that a few seconds ago. Every time you remember something, it becomes a new memory because you accessed it and you put it back. So imagine that every time you take a plastic from your kitchen cupboard and then you take that thing like kind of a Play-Doh, you take the Play-Doh and then put it back, it's a new Play-Doh. Like that, your memory, every time you take it to your consciousness or a conscious brain, conscious mind, and then you put it back, it becomes a different Play-Doh, different memory. Third thing is story habit. Story habit is an idea where you are repeating the story all the time. You have a story, you're repeating the story all the time. Oh, my husband did this to me. Oh, he was like, he was went to Afghanistan and he stayed there. He didn't want to come back. He didn't spend time. And you keep on repeating, it becomes a habit. So story can become a habit. If you really keep on repeating it, story could by itself could become a habit. So what does that mean? It means that because anything that is habitual has power. Anything that is habitual has power. If you keep on repeating it, it has power. And also, story has a direction. And obviously, you know that every story has a direction. There is a beginning, there is a middle, there is an end, right? There's a beginning, there is a middle, there is an end. So there is a direction for the story as well. So story has a direction. Story has energy through habit. Can you imagine that story? That it was this powerful? Oh, what is this? He's just talking about a story. Yeah, that's why stories are so powerful. It has direction and energy. Process that for a second. When you heard an inspiring story about somebody, why is it inspiring us? It's inspiring us because you are able to subconsciously change one of your curse stories into blessing stories, at least for the time being. That's why you're feeling that much inspired. So chicken soup for soul, completely stories. Stories from the Bible, some of the really inspiring stories from the Bible. They inspire us from past, whatever stories, like Aesop fables or anything that you read. If it is a story, it's somehow influencing our curse stories and they are changing the memory. It's actually kind of shifting our stories internally. This is exactly what happens in therapy. This is exactly what happens in music therapy or anything that you do to help you better in healing, in anything that you do to be a better human in terms of emotionally feeling better. Basically, there is a shift in story. So without going too much into it, story has energy and direction. Fair? Is that true? Like, can you agree with me on that? Story has energy because we are repeating it. Anything that is repeated thoughts have energy. So story has energy. Direction because there is a beginning, middle, and end. Makes sense? So how does the story have direction? Because the context of the story gives direction. For example, one of the stories that one of my clients a long time ago came to me and said, I was sent to Jamaica by my stepmother. I was in a house by myself and the house got robbed and the person was raped. And she's like, the context is my mother-in-law was taking advantage of me. She was trying to set me up for this horrible experience. That's the context. So context, and the meaning is, oh my gosh, what a horrible person that is. I'm not wanted. I'm not appreciated. Nobody needs me. Nobody wants me. That's what happened. So the context and meaning gives a direction. Just like the beginning, middle, and end, the context is, oh, mother-in-law, my stepmother, she set me up. She's a horrible person and she hates me. That's the meaning. Makes sense? So that gives a direction for the story. And if I keep on repeating it, then it becomes so powerful, I cannot get out of it. It becomes more powerful than my regular existence. That's why most people are not able to get out of it. So what do I mean by that? It becomes more than my regular existence. What does that mean? It means that in your regular consciousness and your willpower doesn't have the power to overthrow this story because it's captivating you emotionally, because it has a plot. It has, oh, the mother-in-law did this and that happened and then I went there and this happened and robbers attacked and raped, like so much drama in it. I'm not saying that this poor girl's situation is exaggerated or dramatic. No, that's not what I'm saying. every situation in human life, when we go through experiences in life, what happens is it has drama, right? There is an element of drama, and we kind of get addicted to that drama, and we stay in that story. So repetition gives energy. Okay, that's enough science. Let's get into an example. Let me give you an example of how does this work. The way it works is Legos. Like you have Legos. Imagine one set of Legos you could use to make a plane. Like you have probably played with Legos wherever you are, and you put Lego, this piece, all of a sudden it's a plane. And you undo all that, and then all of a sudden you can use the same parts to build a ship. So that, what happened? It's not a plane anymore, it's a ship. Why? Because you could take the pieces off and change a curse story into a blessing story. You could change a plane, a Southwest plane, into an Emirates or an American Airlines plane. Okay, right? So that is possible. So you could change from a plane to a ship by just changing and rearranging it. I'll give you another example. Like when you are changing curse stories to blessing story, it's like building. Let's look at a building. You want to demolish a building, right? So you have a building that's old and it's dusty and so much it's looking really old. The windows are like shaky and like it's leaking all over the place. And you want to change the building. What do? You change the foundation, change the structure, and change the roof. It's a new building. Change the foundation, change the structure, the walls, and change the roof. It's a new building. That's it. That's exactly how you're going to handle stories as well. You change the foundation, change the block, change the roof, and it's going to change. I'm going to demonstrate that for you right now. And then I would be doing so many ways you could change your stories, so many stories that I'll be dynamically doing here, wherever you're watching, I'll be doing it for you. You could use that to change your destiny, because once you have a different story, you have a different destiny. So how do I do it? So what is a curse story? A curse story, the story that pulls you back. What's a blessing story? A blessing story is a story that pulls you forward. So how do you change it? In order for you to know how to change it, you need to know how a story is formed. For a second, let's do that for a second. So experiences are white, pure experiences. There is no color for experiences, right? So, and if you associate a meaning, based on the meaning, the experience takes a direction, right? And meaning and context, it takes a direction. With emotion, it takes a direction, right? So if you're feeling disempowered, meaning, oh my gosh, my mother-in-law did this to me, my stepmother did it to me, then meaning becomes bad. And then emotion becomes bad, the context becomes bad, it becomes a curse story. But if the meaning is like, I want the lottery, I must be lucky. I feel emotion, I feel lucky. Context is, oh, I'm a lucky person. Why do I become this lucky? And it becomes a blessing story. It doesn't have to be winning lottery. It could be being alive. So it becomes a blessing story. Every day, every moment, we are creating these stories. Every day when you wake up, with knowing or without knowing, you're creating these kind of stories that limit us or move us forward. This is how stories are created, because human brain doesn't understand plain, white, boring, white experience. It can experience only purple blessing stories, or red curse story. That's how our brain is wired, and it's saving a memory as a story by itself too. So how do you change from a curse story to a blessing story? It's very simple. And I'll demonstrate this for you like in several videos for several curse stories. And you could bring up some of the curse stories in the chat. You could actually put that in the chat, and I'll show you how to do that. And how do you change a curse story to a blessing story? It's very simple. You take the curse story and find a new meaning. What's a new meaning you could associate with the story? And do it with me. And do it today after this video too. What is a new emotion that you could have for this story? And what's a new context for this story? So you have a new meaning for this story, a new emotion for this story, a new context for this story. And then you have a blessing story. That's it. This can dramatically change your life, change your destiny. You could, if you are doing this the way I shared with you, deep enough, with enough understanding, this video could change your life, literally. This video could change your destiny, literally. You know why I know that? I have helped many people do that. I have seen lives change left and right just by using this one principle. And if you're like, oh, story, I have heard about this kind of thing so many times. And I'm like, I mean, I was just curious about what you're going to say. That's why I stayed till now. Then you lost the whole game. That's your story. Okay. So if you're willing and open and ready to change your story, then change the meaning, change the emotion, change the context. You have a new story. That is exactly what happened to Sue, who came to me. Remember I told you the Jamaica story? And I helped her. This was early stages of my career, probably 15 years ago. She came to me and I sat with her at least 2 times. And then I helped her change the story of whatever happened. She was a victim of a rape. Whatever happened had happened. But we cannot change that. But the story changed. And she became a humanitarian who helped other women who have gone through the situation, helping them to overcome the trauma. Stories can change everything, including your destiny. So in summary, if you want to change a curse story to blessing story, understand the dynamics of memory is that memory is a remembrance. Memory is a remembrance. What do you remember? You memorize. What you remember again? You memorize until you remember. That is a memory. What you remember now is your memory. So which means if you have a different meaning, if you have a different emotion, and if you have a different context, your story has changed. And that's how you create a blessing story. I'm really excited for you to experiment with this, play with this, change. You do your own way. Try to find a curse story, a story that is limiting you, and change that dynamically. This information is not available anywhere in the world but here, because this is something that we had the fortune of inventing. So use this model, because this is based on science, and there is so much more science to share with you. Why the context, and why the meaning, and why the emotion. There are so much scientific facts behind it, which I already feel like this video has gone so much longer than I wanted. So tomorrow, if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer that. Tomorrow, I'm going to address a particular curse story called I Am a Failure. And if you have that curse story, come back here. And if you don't have that curse story, you don't need to listen to it. But if you do have that, if you at least went through failure one time in your life, come back, attend that video where I'll be doing this as an intervention for you, where you could change your curse story of I'm a failure into a blessing story and change your destiny to the next level starting today. So the action is commit to converting your curse story into a blessing story. Commit to converting your curse story into a blessing story. Because life is so beautiful. It's a shift. It's a small life. It's a small opportunity to live 80 years. In that time, we don't want to be spending too much time on our parents if we had a negative association with that. If you had gone through some trauma or some challenges, some failures or some rejections, let's not waste any more energy in it because of stories and draining energy from us if they are limiting us. They are releasing energy for us if they are taking us to the next level. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, where I'll be talking about the curse story, how to convert the curse story, I am a failure, into a blessing story. I'll see you tomorrow.